This will change everything, as by the time you're watching this, we may have word back from the SEC on whether or not they are going to even acknowledge Grayscale's XRP spot ETF filing. They wanted to take their trust and convert it into a spot ETF, which should create a lot more demand for their product. This would be a huge step forward and the first major regulatory breakthrough XRP and Ripple have seen since July of 2023, when the court ruling went in their favor and XRP was deemed not a security. And on that day, the price of XRP soared from 46 cents all the way up to 94 cents for a 101% gain. And on a positive acknowledgement, this very same thing could happen again and position XRP to go on a parabolic run. But that's not all. We have a lot of bullish news to cover today. For example, here is a video of Larry Fink talking about the future of crypto at the most recent Davos conference. We'll listen into what he says and what this would actually mean for XRP holders. We'll be covering how BlackRock and MicroStrategy currently have ties and how this could create for a parabolic run in not only Bitcoin, but virtually every other crypto asset through the rest of the year and into next year. We'll be sharing a video from Hester Peirce, the SEC commissioner, and what she sees happening in the future. And we'll even be diving into a video and this article directly from ripple.com on real world assets and tokenization and how they are in a place to help the whole world modernize their financial infrastructure and bring everything on chain using the XRP ledger. So let's dive into the video, and as always, if you're feeling blessed and bullish, comment 777, and if you're going to be the wealthiest person in your family tree, smash the subscribe button. Well, folks, I think the bottom is officially in for the majority of cryptos, as people like Michael Saylor are doubling down and taking on essentially more debt in order to buy more Bitcoin. Now, here's an older video of him and Tucker Carlson, but basically he's stating every time we get cash, we buy more Bitcoin. Now, why is this important? Because you have players like BlackRock who now revealed that they own 5% of Strategy, or MSTR. They recently rebranded from MicroStrategy to Strategy, where their entire net worth is in Bitcoin. Now, this could either be the biggest collapse in history, or it might be the smartest play in history. And as we've seen, crypto is no longer something you can consider a bubble. Yes, it is volatile. Yes, there have been a lot of players that have manipulated these markets, but over time it's consistently risen to the upside because there's some serious demand for these types of technologies, more specifically blockchains that are not only secure but also have really quick times to finality like Ripple. So let's go ahead and take a look at MicroStrategy, currently sitting on 478,000 Bitcoin. And since February 9th, they were sitting on 471,000, and they just increased their holding by another like 7,000 Bitcoin. Maybe this explains why we've seen the Bitcoin on exchange reserves consistently decline all the way into this rally from the price of $69,000 on Bitcoin all the way up to $106,000 on a Bitcoin, and it continued declining and declining and declining. This is a sign of major institutional demand, especially when we dumped into that $91,000 range, even though you don't see it on this chart because we're not looking at the wicks. Ultimately, it did happen, and as you can see, a boatload of Bitcoin was accumulated, and right now you're having a little bit of a rally to the upside in terms of Bitcoin being deposited on exchanges just in case. But generally speaking, this trend is so strong that I thoroughly expect 91,000 to be the local low on Bitcoin. And even if we hang out in this range for a while, this is going to be important because as institutional demand grows for Bitcoin, it's also going to grow for something like XRP. And I'll tell you why that matters here shortly. But Larry Fink has been a longtime proponent of asset tokenization and also getting a lot of major or institutional players worldwide to adopt Bitcoin in terms of a reserve asset, or to at least allocate between 2 to 5% of their total assets into something like Bitcoin. And here he was at Davos talking about that.
You if you're frightened of your debasement of your currency, or you're frightened of your economic or political stability of your country, you could have an internationally based instrument called Bitcoin that will overcome those local fears. And so I'm a big believer in the utilization of that as an instrument. And so if that becomes true, and you see that it could be a proper hedge against maybe hope security or equities. Yeah. The question is, could you see a 2 or 5% allocation? I was with a sovereign wealth fund during this week, and that was the conversation. Should we have a 2% allocation? Should we have a 5% allocation? If everybody adopted that conversation, but it would be 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 per Bitcoin.
Does it also?
Now, could you imagine? This is the conversation that some of the biggest players in the room are having. And you might be saying, well, Bitcoin at 700K doesn't really matter to me. I don't own any Bitcoin. But you have to understand, Bitcoin is the largest portion of the market. And the reason a lot of institutions are going to enter the space and even see something like XRP, because there are a lot of sovereign wealth funds that might be looking at Bitcoin, but have heard about XRP, but simply do not own it yet. Yes, ownership does matter. And ultimately, supply and demand economics still operate the same in just about every single market, XRP included. If the demand was extremely high and there virtually was no supply left, then obviously the price would pump, because the bid orders would consistently put that price higher and higher and higher. But since that's obviously not the case, that means we need more institutions to adopt Bitcoin and for their money to rotate into the rest of the market. And for example, I've already talked about this stuff over and over and over again, but I really want to give it or paint the case that if Bitcoin rises to, let's say, 750K on a high, what would the market cap of Bitcoin be? Now, let's assume that Bitcoin dominance of the total market is about 54%. Okay, in other words, Bitcoin at this price, what is the total market cap? What is the market cap of all of crypto then? Which would leave XRP to rise to about a 6.5% market dominance. And that's my mid-level case. Okay, my bull case would be like upwards of 8%. That means if $1 trillion is in all of crypto, and by the way, the market cap of all of crypto is higher, I'm just giving an easy example, then the actual market cap of XRP being 8% of the market would make it $80 billion. Now, XRP's almost double that market cap. But generally speaking, XRP ranges between 3 to upwards of 8%. The average, I would say, in a good case would be about 6.5%, which is why I'm using this case right here. Then I state what would happen if more supply was actually added to the total supply. In other words, more of those tokens in escrow are used by Ripple in order to build their business model. And after asking all of these questions, here is what GPT spit out, and it's actually quite beautiful. If Bitcoin hits this price, and I do believe it will now with the institutional adoption, this would leave its market cap at $14 trillion, which is technically going to be as large or larger than gold one day. Now, at the Bitcoin dominance of 54%, that would leave a total market cap of $27 trillion in all of crypto. Now, if XRP was just 6.5% of that market dominance, with the current circulating supply of like 57 billion tokens of the 100 billion, that would put us at about $30 per token. However, if more of the supply reached the market, let's say 70 billion tokens, then the price would be $25. Again, because you can't just dump a bunch of supply into the markets, you obviously need buyers. And by the way, if there are no buyers at a certain price, then the orders continue to get filled lower and lower and lower and lower. And so this is the issue with a lot of cryptos that have a lot of inflation. Things like Solana, even though demand increases because there's so much inflation or supply hitting the market, it suppresses the price. XRP and the team at Ripple have done a good job of not doing that, but eventually into a major bull market, they're highly likely to continue to release the supply and sell bit by bit by bit. This is how Warren Buffett sells on something we called an anchor VWAP. So that said, they want to get an average price. Let's say they want to sell something at $100 but they know they're not going to get that price because they own so much of the supply. And they're happy at a low of $80, even though the price might dump a little more. So they'll sell a little bit at a time, consistently, order after order after order, along an anchored volume range. Okay, so that's essentially what we're talking about here. That's what would likely happen. But still, if Bitcoin hit $750,000, we're talking a $25 XRP. And I would say that's a pretty average case considering all of the institutional adoption here. Now listen folks, I know a lot of that might sound a little bit confusing to you. Maybe you don't understand how I got to these conclusions or the math that I actually used to do this, but this is all stuff you would learn inside of Altcoin Pro University, and you can find the link down in the description below. You're going to want to at least check it out, and if you like what you see, then get started sooner rather than later, because every single day counts in this bull market. We have pros sharing all sorts of really cool altcoin calls or picks that sometimes 5x, 10x, and even 50x. We have tons of community members winning. We do a ton of live calls. We have expert courses and classes. We teach you how to do DeFi analysis, technical analysis, fundamental analysis, get access to all sorts of airdrops consistently. There's 1,200 paying members, and the reason that they're here and paying is because the value is bar none the best in the game. If you want to become a crypto millionaire in 2025, then get started sooner rather than later. Now, I can't guarantee that's going to happen for you, but whatever your goal is, you can reach it with the right tools, training, and resources, and even community. So all that said, if that sounds interesting to you and you want to learn more about it, go to bullrunners.com. Link is in the description below to check out Altcoin Pro University. Watch this 26-minute video, and I'll see you on the other side. Now, one of the reasons I am so confident that we are going to hit some of these prices into the future is because people like Fink are really doubling down on real world assets and asset tokenization, as his new exchange, which will be based in Texas, will solely focus on asset tokenization. That said, you have major players like Ripple who are key and positioned properly with the right infrastructure and now regulatory clearance in order to provide these types of products. And this explains why recently Ondo partnered with Ripple and is integrating its OUSG with the XRP ledger in order to bring tokenized US Treasuries and BlackRock's BUIDL fund on chain. So think about this partnership. You've got BlackRock, you've got Ondo connecting XRP and Ripple with BlackRock. And just the other day, Ripple even posted an article talking about how their real world asset tokenization is going to reshape finance. And in the article, which I recommend you go and check out for yourself directly on ripple.com so you understand how it works, ultimately they talk about the benefits and why the entire world is going to adopt. But more particularly, I want to cover why you would want to use XRP and their ledger versus other competitors. So for example, they say that XRPL is ideal for RWA tokenization because not only is it incredibly simple, but tokens are immediately available for trading on their DEX or decentralized exchange. There is no need for a specialized programming language, which makes this very complex. It makes it very simple when we're talking about complex smart contracts. The built-in DEX and auto-bridging features simply make it possible for on-chain trading and transactions, which will settle in 3 to 5 seconds at a fraction of a cent. The XRPL also features institutional grade security, and I think that is probably the biggest thing, because XRPL isn't the only thing or the only product that would allow for RWA anymore. There are a lot of really smart folks out there. There are competitors, but one thing the majority don't have is institutional grade security. You need buy-in from major players with major amounts of money, and that's something that Ripple does have, having processed over 2.8 billion transactions since 2012 with 0 security breaches. That's a good track record, folks. This is complemented by regulatory ready features like support before, from decentralized identifiers or DIDs and verifiable credentials VCs for on-chain compliance, something that is very important for institutional grade clients. Now, what exactly can you do with these RWAs? Well, I'm going to read them off really quick. Tokenized treasuries, real estate. Think about how big these markets are. We're talking treasuries and real estate. Debt. We're talking the bond market's one of the biggest markets in the entire world. Yield strategy. So now it's easier to earn yield on all sorts of assets that are real world that you would hold on chain. And the list goes on, but you can go ahead and look into real world assets and asset tokenization for yourself. Now, that said, we have one of the team members over at Ripple sharing just how exciting and how big of an opportunity this is. Let's have a listen.
So look, the XRP ledger is able to settle any transaction in 3 seconds. So I think I should be able to explain tokenization in 60 seconds. Hi, my name is Marcus Infanger, and this is Crypto in a Minute. Tokenization is transformative for finance because essentially it's the portal allowing us to bring traditional financial markets, which at the core are still really stuck in the pre-internet era, full of red tape, onto blockchain networks, which are global out of the gate and significantly more efficient. If you think about it, there's over $1 quadrillion worth of financial assets that exists today in the world. They take days to settle and weeks to get issued, and 20% of the world population doesn't even have access to them. Now just imagine what it means to the global economy in terms of productivity, but also prosperity to everyone, if we find ways to operate just 10% more efficiently with these assets, or we can get just 10% of these people who are excluded from the global economy into the global economy. And this is exactly what drives us every single day.
So think about what he just said right there. Over $1 quadrillion in assets exist today, and all of those in the future will eventually be on chain, which makes everything more affordable, more seamless, more transparent, every single benefit that the blockchain offers. And again, there's virtually nobody better positioned than the team at Ripple and the XRPL. Now, when you combine all of this with clear regulatory guidelines and players like this SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce and what she's going to share in this video, you get a recipe for success. Crypto is not only here to stay, but now we're actually going to have Washington behind it. And when we talk about these regulatory frameworks, those have consistently been the major issues and barriers for crypto, and more particular players like Ripple and XRP to succeed. But with those all out of the way, things are looking really good. And we're going to get some insane prices this year. But let's have a listen.
Does that mean that in your view, crypto does have a purpose, and what is that purpose?
Well, I think that there is a lot of really interesting work that is being done and that will be done involving crypto. I mean, the technology allows people to coordinate in ways that was not possible before, people who don't know each other. You know, in the past, it's been very difficult for people to build something with other people across the world they don't know, but this creates a trust mechanism that really does enable people to do interesting things. You can build things on a public blockchain, and you can build things in the financial world. We might see some integration of blockchain technology into the traditional financial world. You can do things outside of finance as well using the technology. So I think it remains to be seen where it will go, but I'm excited to see where it takes us.
You referred.
And finally, for the big one, folks, from Uphold, which, by the way, I'm not going to say that they're bad. I think they're a great exchange. However, I think their fees are dog water. So personally, I avoid Uphold for that reason. But that's why they charge such high fees, because they're very easy to use. That said, I don't like using them. Still, they're a very trustworthy player in the space as an exchange. And even they made a mention of the fact that we might even see an XRP ETF acknowledgement tomorrow. And this is directly from Cointelegraph, that the SEC may acknowledge Grayscale's XRP ETF 19B4 filing by February 13th. And by the way, when this was posted was obviously the day before, but by the time you're watching this, this might actually be all over your Twitter or X feed. Right here, you can see that Grayscale, Bitwise, Canary, 21 Shares, Wisdom Tree will all at least have an acknowledgement date. However, the SEC deadline would be October 17th of this year. So I still believe that we're likely not going to get it. And the reason I don't believe so is because XRP price hasn't moved too much on this news. And typically you would see a lot of movement before this happening because insiders know something is coming. The fact that insiders aren't buying it like crazy and the price hasn't moved as much leads me to believe that we're likely not going to get any type of acknowledgement just yet. And it's likely that we still have to wait for an outcome from the SEC on not continuing to fight this legal battle against Ripple and XRP, which may likely come sometime in March or April on a confirmation of the new SEC chairman. So that's it for the video, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new. And if you did, be sure to smash that subscribe button and also check out bullrunners.com. You can find the link in the description below to get all sorts of freaking value from Altcoin Pro University. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain by checking it out. And I would argue the only thing you're going to lose or miss out on is consistent alpha that not only the community shares, but our team of pros and experts share that you can take advantage of and double down in this bull market cycle. Every single day, they're sharing all sorts of altcoin picks or alpha in the DeFi world, or how you can take advantage of current market moves that you simply miss out on this channel. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.